Hello and welcome to Q&A Live with Kendra Ruth. I am Kendra Ruth from The Hero Spouse, here to answer your questions about midlife crisis in your marriage. So I am sorry you have to feel you have to be here because of midlife crisis in your marriage. It kind of sucks, doesn't it? But I'm going to answer your questions. I have about 5 questions and then a few topics we can go over if we need to. And I will probably not get to all of our questions so that we can go to some of those topics. And let's get started. If you also need to ask a few more questions, you can ask them in the chat as we go along, especially if they are, and the phone, which I'm going to turn off as it rings. If you need to ask some questions, especially about the questions that I'm already answering, especially if it's yours, you can do that in the chat. I will try and keep my eye on the chat as we go. I am going live in 3 places. I'm going live on YouTube, on a private Facebook page. Your questions or comments are private if you were asking in that page, and a public Facebook page. Your friends could be notified if you ask or comment in that page. So I want you to know that that sometimes does happen depending on how you have your notifications set up. So I'm going to go and check how things are coming through. Make sure I'm coming in on those pages right now. And so give me a moment while we just make sure everything's working. And then we'll get started. Okay, looks like we're coming through on that page. Okay, and I'm going to put the comment on my membership. So Stand Up and Thrive, my membership for forward moving spouses is open until Thursday. And it closes at 9 o'clock Pacific time on Thursday evening. So if you are interested in a membership, we meet 4 times a week. That is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We meet for 2 hours on Wednesday and Thursday, and for 1 hour on Mondays and Fridays. That's how the schedule is working as of now. So if you'd like to join us for those meetings, you can join their group. That group also includes Detach and Thrive, which is a course which you go through on your own. It is a video series with downloads, workbooks, and you can discuss that course as we go through the class, as the meetings as well. So let's see. Let me click submit. Okay, we're coming through there. And hold on. Sorry, this piece takes a while, just making sure everything is coming through. Okay, looking good. Okay. And YouTube. Okay, it looks good. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to start out with number 1. We have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of May 1st, 2023. She has a date of marriage of 2013, an at-home MLCer who is a low energy wallower. She says he turned 40 about 2 years ago and he hasn't been the same since. We're currently separated for the last 9 months, but in the same house. He's cordial to me, but there's been no attempt for repair or reconciliation. He doesn't monster. There's no alienator that she knows of. And he does leave every other weekend to spend time at his parents'. He's a very high-functioning depression and a big drinker. I'm 2.5 years in. He shows no signs of leaving. I understand they have to go through this on their own, but I see no progress at all. Oftentimes, with a low energy wallower, I get the no progress. You either don't see progress. Sometimes I also wonder, is there progress when there's this depression going on? He says he wants a divorce, but does nothing for it. Yeah, when there's no energy to do anything, they don't. And maybe they don't want a divorce. Maybe they don't want anything. Maybe they don't know what they want. And when pressured by me asking him, what are you doing? Let's see, hold on. Says no progress. He says, but does nothing for it, and only says divorce when pressured by me asking, what are we doing? I'm not sure how to proceed doing this with 2 young kids in the house and no end in sight. I give him plenty of space and ask no questions. Okay, ask no questions, because asking questions, that can be dangerous territory. Giving space, yes, but we do come to that place where if you do nothing, if we make no changes, then nothing changes, right? And we're in a double bind, because the advice says, don't do this, and don't do this, meaning, well, don't pressure, don't do these things, and give them space. All sorts of the advice being all sorts of things to let them be. Just leave them alone and let them go do their thing. And yet, the other side of it is, if we do that, why would anything change? And there's a double bind with that, isn't there? With a high energy replayer, at least they're active, and it feels like maybe they'll notice something. We're not talking vanisher here. Somebody who's at least having some form of communication where they see us. So there's a few things I want you to do. First thing, consider that you're dealing with somebody who is depressed. So, first thing, how are you doing on your healing? Focus on you and your healing. Focus on your children. And for your life, I want you to think about making a life for yourself and what you can do to make the best of your life. And this might sound strange, because this is sometimes how it feels. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Schrodinger's cat. It's kind of a physics thought experiment, and I may do a bad job of explaining it, but there's a cat in the box, and this box has radiation in it. You put the cat in the box, and is the cat dead or alive? And the idea is, you don't know if the cat is dead or alive until you open the box. So it's both. Schrodinger's cat is functionally both until you open it, because you don't know. And right now, you have 2 lives. And you don't know where life is going, because he is here. And you are going to create an absolute life for yourself and your children and make a plan. And he's not in it. And I am not telling you that it is an exit plan. Okay? And it might be one. It might come to that. It might not. I am just telling you, plan things. Do things. Have a life. Plan play dates, everything. And you can say, hey, would you like to go out with us? And he says, no. Would you like to do this with us? And he says, no. And it's very difficult, because right now I have it too. In fact, I was talking with my friend and our neighbor, who is a therapist, yesterday. She's a very good friend. She just happens to be a therapist, but she's a good friend. And she looked at me and she says, have you considered he's in an existential crisis? And I looked at him and said, I don't think he's, when I've talked about how Chuck is doing right now, I don't think he's in a midlife crisis. And she's like, so I'm going to start looking at, she's like, yeah, but you're in it with him, so maybe you're biased. So maybe he's going through another one. I don't know. But I will tell everybody that he's always had an anxiety disorder and he's been very depressed. And for him, depression is anger. And 20 years ago, he was a high energy replayer. So I'm going to start looking at this because I've talked to you about that we're struggling. So I'm going to start looking at it as maybe he's a low energy wallower with undercurrents of anger. That's how his is. Okay. And maybe I'll put that frame on it. If I put that framework on it. And we make a plan. Here's your life. So first thing, some of what I talk about when people have a low energy wallower, they're depressed and they just don't do anything and you see no progress. First thing, if you're a stander and you're going to do this, set midlife crisis aside and focus on, I am the caregiver to a depressed spouse and I studied midlife crisis. You studied depression in marriage. That could be something. You also have children. And you said that they're young kids in the house. Young kids. Oh my gosh. So you have a few things to think about. Number one, how toxic is it? Children are better off, and this was peer-reviewed studies, and the phrasing that was used was children are better off if their parents remain together. If the relationship is low conflict. That's whether they're happy or not. Even in relationships where the relationship isn't going really well, but it's low conflict still, they can maintain and be okay together. But if the relationship is high conflict, children are better off when their parents aren't together. I have come to the idea that I want to put the word toxic in there because a relationship can feel low conflict and toxic. And toxic isn't good. So I want you to think about where's toxic and what are we teaching and showing our children about relationships? What are they going to learn? Are they learning how to be in a relationship for their future? Okay, there's that. Now, I want you to be building a life with your children. Well, the potato on the couch or the rock on the couch is there also. And you're inviting him, and he's not participating, whatever that is. And you're figuring out and learning about depression and what that might mean and things like that. But also, you're building a life with your children, and you're including them. And how can you be as happy on this side of that with them? And then there's him over here. But for the children, how much of it can you do with and for them while you're also healing for yourself? That's this piece of, remember the two lives, Schrodinger's cat. And then you've got the him over here. It's almost, and as you're building this relationship with them, I think about how, and often it's men, but it's both women and men. The male MLCers, or male forward-moving spouses often say how wonderful the relationship with their children is when they go through this. Because they have a great relationship with their kids. It builds and becomes better often. The kids see who the crazy one is, depending on the ages of the children, of course. But when they have, say, children who are around 15 to 22, they often have, it matures and it forms deep bonds. Do that with your children. You're forming these deep bonds and protecting them and doing things with them and building life with them. So that if it comes to the plan splitting, you're there with them. And I'm trying to make it so that we can ease on this path. And if it doesn't ease on in this path, you can continue on and he can weave back in because he's already there. And you're healing as you're going. Healing as you're going. During Tug's midlife crisis, he was in and out and in and out and in and out. And I was healing as we were going. as his midlife crisis went. I didn't wait to heal. You get a bomb drop, and let's say we're all going to reconcile. Oh yeah, we wish, I know. Let's say we reconcile, but it's 3 to 7 years out. Are you going to wait 3 years to heal or 7 years to heal? I hope not. Please. And that is, it's going to sound weird, the benefit that we have over somebody who has infidelity and then discovery, and then they try and heal. They heal right after discovery and trickles and all these things, but they haven't worked on the healing. And this, we get all this healing done, and then there's a reconciliation. I healed and then reconciled. And so we were more ready for reconciliation because of the healing that had taken place. There is a gap between discovery and recovery that we have. And that is to our advantage. It really is. It doesn't feel like it because you look at your friend over there who didn't have the midlife crisis affair. They had just had an affair and then they recovered. And their recovery, they're still together and they're doing so much better, so much earlier. And that is darn. But I don't know if they have struggles that are more struggles later or not. I don't know. But in some ways, they might have more problems in recovery because healing and recovery were trying to happen at the same time. Heal. We have this healing, and so I want you're going to be working on your healing. You can't control his piece of it. He has to. And he's going to see these people, and maybe that won't do anything for him. It might not. We say and want it to, that you are the mirror. But what if the mirror does nothing for him? I can't tell you. Because I live with it too. I live with the mirror and someone who may have no insight and who may not change. And I face that. And I have to accept he may not change. And then I have to answer some questions and come to some hard truths about that and some decisions about that. And you may have to as well. We all may have to do that. Okay? So, yeah, you're giving him space. You're doing the right things, but that doesn't mean it's going to come to the ends you think it will, or what you're told that if you do this, this is the end that you'll get. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean if you give him space, then he will figure it out. It might mean if you don't give him space, the opposite might be he won't figure it out. But it doesn't mean he will figure it out if you do. Sometimes they just won't. Or not in the timeline we're going to look at it as. Sometimes they just still stay angry. Sometimes they won't get help. Or there are other ways for them to get help, and we don't know what it is. We don't know. We don't have the solutions, the thing that is the key thing that they're going to see that is going to trigger them in the positive trigger to get them to the light bulb for them. We don't. Each person's magic solution might be unique to them. Okay. So you focus on your children, you focus on your healing, and you focus on grace. Always, always grace with boundaries and grace. Boundaries are always there and grace is there. Focus on your children. And I know it's hard because I got 5 of them in the house. Okay. And my youngest is classic ADHD, and he's 8. And if you're 8 and ADHD, you're more like 6. He doesn't read yet. He has trouble with his numbers yet. My oldest is ADHD, and she's 13. She has trouble focusing, and she doesn't take in information. She's looking, but she's not really listening. It's not that she's not trying. And so she's struggling. And the middle one, ADHD and rage. And that oldest has rage. And I'm balancing this. And one of my middle ones is having serious attachment due to all of these things going on. So I'm struggling with you too. And focusing on the kids. Okay? Because we can't save them all. You have a depressed husband. And I'm sorry for that. Okay? Grace. Okay. Let me know if you have questions, but think about it as a depression. And instead of thinking about stages of midlife crisis, look at depression. I really want you to think about when you have a low energy wallower that's this depressed, think about depression and look at books that are on depression in marriage. Okay. Number 2. Okay. We have Julie. Julie has a bomb drop of July 23rd, 2022, and a date of marriage of 1998. She has a vanisher who is a high energy replayer. She says, how can I detach when I have a vanisher? All I have are the words that were said, and it happened so quickly, and he's been gone for 3 years, and he recently married the alienator. I'm so sorry. As long as he's around, as long as he's around those who support the lie and the narrative, how do we left behind spouses of vanishers focus on us? Some would say the opposite also. It's as long as you have, as long as he's around those who support the lie narrative, but the other is he's not around. So you have more ability to focus on you. So some can see it in another reframing. Okay. But hold on. No answers lead to nothing but what we believe. Right. So you don't have closure because he's not going to give you the answers. Okay. There's been absolutely no contact, and I fear pushing him deeper if I do. Right. Is there such a thing as deeper? Because he's already vanished. Really. What more can you do? I mean, we could say, yeah, sure, there's more. He could go worse. But he's already vanished. It's already there. Plus, I don't feel it should be my doing the reaching. Really, yeah. Agree. Why should you? It's like being robbed and the villain getting away with it. Yeah. But you have a vanisher. And what would happen if he died? Or what happens when somebody has an estranged parent or sibling, and let's say it was a sibling who you were really close to. Let's say it was your identical twin. I mean, somebody I want you to have full intimate closeness that, you didn't ever want to lose that person, and then estrangement. And something happened and they died. I mean, so that in other words, you could never come get them back. You don't get closure. You don't get answers. There's no way for you to ever get answers. And so no answers leads to nothing but what you believe, right? What do you do then? I mean, yes, there's the advantages in that situation. You don't have that person being enabled by being supported by others who are enabling their beliefs because that person is dead. So I guess you have that. But right now, I think it's not about him. Oftentimes we say, you know what, this isn't about you, this is about him. This isn't about you, this is about your MLC. But right now, we're going to do the opposite. What you're looking at right now is this isn't about him, this is about you. Okay? Because we're trying to focus on you, and you're focusing on him. But we want you to focus on you, right? You're struggling to detach. How can I detach when you have a vanisher? And many people don't have as much problem detaching when people are, I'm not going to say vanisher, some people have struggles to detach when they have a vanisher, and then some people have less problem. And then when they detach more when the person is away, and then when the person comes back, they learn they weren't as detached because they're back and like, oh, I was only detached in theory. They go away and they come back. And we have to detach in vivo, in vitro, and vivo, in vitro. So we detach in life and we detach under glass in theory in the petri dish. And then we test it out. And we detach in life and we have to practice for real. That sort of thing. Because it's easier when they're away and we get this space. And then you have this MLCer and they're right in your face and you're spinning and they're gaslighting you and doing all this stuff to you. And you don't have that. And so you've got these people who have the clinging boomerangs who are going, oh my God, I wish I had that. And then you've got the people with vanishers in your situation going, my God, I wish everyone wants the other person's situation. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Because nobody wants to be the other person. Grass isn't greener either way. And so for you, first thing, I want to ask, what sort of counseling or therapy have you had? Have you had any trauma therapy? And have you had anything like any hypnotherapy? Maybe something to help you take and reframe and take this and help you get that out of your thoughts. Take your thoughts and move them. And thought stopping. Because that's what it is I want you to take those thoughts away from there and redirect. Redirect the thoughts. Because that's what we need to get. We need to refocus and direct your thoughts over to here so that they are on you. Because this is about you. I'm not saying this is your problem. I'm saying I want you to focus on you. And you're focusing on something external to you. And you might not ever get answers to these things. And some of the answers are going to be generalizations. And what I mean by that is you can go to Heart's Blessings and mine and all of the literature that's out there. You go to Understanding Midlife Crisis, and Heart's Blessings has all of her stuff on. And I have all of my stuff at Midlife Crisis, Marriage Advocate, on all of the manuscripts that is there, and on the blog on Love Anyway, all of the articles that are there. I have the course Understanding Midlife Crisis and posts from everybody else, plethora of information there. HB's got tons of stuff. HB has her book. The other books that are out there, lots of information to not to overwhelm you. It can. But you can learn about midlife crisis. And so you can get answers. So I don't mean that they're generalized, but they're not answers to the questions you asked him. But why did you leave? So what we're saying is psychologically, here's what if the person is, such as saying, here's why narcissists act this way, here's why borderlines act this way, or here's why somebody who is bipolar has this chemical imbalance. And so this is why this chemical imbalance acts in this way. It's not telling you why this person with this disorder did this act. Why did this person with bipolar draw in their manic state this thing? Well, they drew, because they're very creative, they drew this based on this in their life. Can't answer why they did that, but they're creative. That's part of oftentimes. The bipolars are often very creative. I can't tell you why they drew that item. That's specific. So I can't answer their specifics, but the general things we can answer. And so you're not going to get the general answers. You might not get that level of closure. Okay. And you might not ever get that. So you have to look at what you need, what you can accept, and what you can reflect on from your past and have insight, personal insight, and into yourself, and reflect on how he was and on what you know of his past, the family of origin. But also, what do you need to look forward to? I don't want you dwelling on too much of the past. want you to live towards the future. Live for now so that you can live and look into and have a bright future. Okay. And for that, I want you to reframe and redirect. And what do you need to be able to do that? Sometimes, for some people, something like hypnotherapy might be what would help do that. And if you needed something like a trauma therapy, I don't know what you need for that, if you needed that. And so something like EMDR, but what have you done in counseling? Because that would be, you're not going to get the answers. And it's not about pushing him deeper. You have a vanisher. And obviously, I'm not going to give people a guarantee on anything, but for the most part, in general, vanishers don't return. Okay? Because I don't want to give people a false sense of hope out there. Probability-wise, vanishers are not likely to return. I have to plug in. I forgot to plug this in, so I don't want to. Give me a moment. So I want you to think about that and what that can mean for you. Okay? Because I don't want you to feel robbed, and I don't want to rob yourself. So what, you're the one to take that action. Because if you get some ideas on what things you can do and then you don't do them, then who's robbing whom? Okay? And so right now, by you continuing to look back and look back and look back and focus on him and focus on him, he's not doing any of that. You know, it's like being robbed and the villain getting away with it. Yeah, I get the analogy, but the villain could be dead even now, and you'd still be feeling that. If he's a vanisher of enough, I know that you've got some information, but what if he died and you didn't have any information? And so you didn't even know it, and you just wrote all of this and you could still feel it, but you had no information that he was gone. And so you're like, yeah, I guess I could call him, but I don't know. What would you do? You have to solve this for yourself. He can't solve it for you. And so it's like being robbed and the villain is getting away with it. But right now, you're holding it hostage. You have to refocus you. He can't do it for you. He can't solve this for you. And if you reached out to him, he probably wouldn't answer you. But you're not reaching out to him anyways. And I agree with you that it shouldn't be you. And I would agree with you that he probably wouldn't answer you and be rude and mean anyway, if he did. So that would be traumatizing in itself. Okay. So you have to solve this. It's up to you. You have to be the one to give yourself some form of closure to move forward. You have to be the one to give yourself the detachment. You do it. It's all in your power. He can't do it for you. Okay? So what are you going to do to sever it, to separate it? You can hold those memories. They can be precious. That doesn't mean you have to disconnect any of the good things. Detachment isn't a disconnection from the real and authentic good things we had and the real love that we had with a spouse. But it is that it is disentangling from any from any emotions that we have that are going together with them. And he's vanished from you. So if he's mad at you right now, you're not in the same space. So hopefully your emotions aren't rising and falling together like that. So that's not the problem we're having, is it? It's that you aren't able to let go of something. And he can't be responsible for that, can he? Okay. So what are you, Julie, what are you going to do about that? Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you need any help. Okay. Because we all have to take, it's not even accountability, and maybe it is. It's a little of both. We have to take, responsibility for our own healing. But we're all here to help. We can help each other. But we can't do it for each other. Okay. We're here to hug each other. So I'm going to go on to number 3, but let me know. Let me know what you need. Okay. Number 3, this is going to be, I don't really have an answer for number 3 so much, so I'm going to apologize beforehand. This is anonymous, female, left behind, and forward-moving spouse. The bomb drop is March 5th, 2024. Date of marriage. Hold on. June 1st, 1998. It's Chuck, but I should know I'm not supposed to answer. Vanisher and a low-energy wallower, but I don't really think any of it is valid because it's just a generic question. It says, what percentage of couples stay together even after the divorce? I'm not standing and the divorce is almost final. I felt I've been punched in the chest still to this day. So, okay, hold on. First thing, yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way. Yeah, and it hasn't been very long. It's been only a little bit over a year for you. So, but couples that stay together even though they're divorced, I don't have a statistic on that. I don't have a statistic on couples that stay together or couples that reconcile. It is not high. And there are statistics on people, and this isn't midlife crisis, but there are statistics I have seen, and I don't want to cite them because I think it's too high. I've seen that couples who remarry after they divorce, but remarry each other, that is something that happens occasionally. There are statistics of people who divorce, who marry the alienator, and what the likelihood of that would last is, which isn't, that's not good, low statistics on that as well. But then they change. And those are old statistics. And I don't know what they are anymore. They're just not high, though. But I have not especially ever seen something that would say couples that are together, even though the paper isn't there, even though they're divorced. I know that years ago, I worked with somebody who he kept leaving and coming home to home base and didn't acknowledge that the divorce was finalized and did that. And I know of couples who got together again but did not ever marry again. But it's more I know of. That there was a couple that my mom has referenced in her generation that I knew as a kid because their daughter was in school with me and they go to our church. She says, yeah, they're together, but I don't think they've ever gotten married. I think they did. I think they divorced, but they've been back together for 30 years. But they didn't. I don't think they're married again. And I don't even know how long they were not married or how long they were actually apart. Might have only been a few years, barely noticeable to the time that they've been together again and how they were together before. But as for that, I apologize. The percentage of couples that stay together after divorce, I don't know. But in general, the general reconcile. I'm going to throw a number out there and the number means nothing. 5% reconcile? I don't know. Years ago, when I was in, I'm sure it's Chuck again. Years ago, when I was in Jim Conway's group, somebody said that 80% reconciled. And I saw that, and I thought that they said it was coming from Jim. So I put it out on Divorce Busting. Then I asked Jim, and he said no. And I don't know where that came from, and I didn't say it. So I stopped. But I felt so bad. I was like, Jim said this. 80% reconcile. I thought, no, absolutely not. That is absurd. 80% do not reconcile. I wish, right, but no. And it could be that 80% want to, but no. Never heard of anything like that. It is not a lot. I do this so that we can increase that. Okay. But we don't have numbers that are high like that. Okay. So we're going to go on. I'm going to go on to number 4. I don't have it printed, so I have to go into my form. So give me a moment. Okay. And this one is probably going to take the rest of the time, so I'm probably not going to do topic today and make it to there's a couple topics I want to discuss, and I may discuss them next time. We will see, though, if I do. Okay. So this is an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. And this is a really important one. Okay. We have a date of bomb drop of 1996. And yes, you are seeing that right. Okay. And a date of marriage of, and you were seeing this one right as well. So date of bomb drop was August of 96. Date of marriage is 1969. Before my parents married. Okay. Contact type is boomerang. And she says she's not familiar with energy level. Okay. She says, and you've been in the group for a long time, I think. And I know I've seen you say some of these things before, but I don't think I really realized quite as much. Okay. So it says, as you can see, I was married a long time ago and divorced a long time ago. My ex remains with the original alienator. They live together and they've lived together since the divorce, but they never married. My understanding is that she and the ex, for a time they broke it off, but remained together. They broke off the marriage, and remained together. They were going to be married. She is the one who did not want to marry. Our oldest son has a mental illness, and because of that, my ex and I have had to have fairly frequent contact. And because of that, we remain pretty attached. And that's where the challenges come along. This keeps me attached despite all of the head knowledge about detaching. Divorce was devastating to me, and I stood for a long, long time. I had help with marriage helpers and things, and I get along well, but it's difficult for me when he's so friendly. He remains with her, the alienator, in a long-term relationship. And my aside is, if you look at the timeline now, 1969 to 96 bomb drop is not 30 years, not quite 30 years. That's 27 years. Okay. And 1996. And you said since the divorce, but I'm going to understand. And that's bomb drop. I don't know when the divorce was final, but I was going to assume that he was with the alienator from bomb drop, even though he moved in with her at divorce at least. But to now, 96 to now, that's 29 years. He has been with her as long as he was with you or longer. I hope, since you've probably figured that out, I hope that's not triggering. Okay. But for everybody else, okay. So how can I continue to detach is the basic question. But this is also for all of the rest of you out there. Looking at this of, yes, sometimes they are with the alienator, and that is their relationship. Sometimes they marry the alienator. And the alienator and him in this situation may not be married legally, but they are. Okay. This is a marital style relationship, even without that paper. They're married, aren't they? They don't need the paper for it. My dad was the other man with my stepmother. She left her husband, and I mean immediately, married. I mean, immediately moved in with him. I mean, from they sold his house. She probably, I don't think there was a night between his house and they rented a house together. They were looking for a house while she was still there because she had to sell that house. They found a house. She and her 2 children, who were 11 and Arnie Gorm was 8, so 11 and 8, moved in. My dad got out of his apartment to get this house. So they all left their houses or their places that they lived to move into this house. Her 2 children left their family home. And she and my dad were married until my dad died. They were married for 29 years. Okay. So, yeah. And she was married to her husband for 20 years. And I loved him. I loved him. He's still alive. And he is the nicest man. And my stepmother is still alive, but I talked to my sister, a few months ago, and she has dementia. And they said she probably wouldn't know who I am now if I were to talk to her. And it's been a year since she's remembered who my dad is. My dad died 7, 8 years, 9. Peyton is 9. He died the day I picked up my daughter, Peyton. So it's been 9 years, and she hasn't talked about my dad in a year. It's been that long since she remembers who he is, I guess. And so she probably wouldn't know me. But her husband, first, was amazing. I loved him. And he accepted things, and it was really nice. But they were together. So yes, bad news for you guys is that sometimes they do last. Not usually. It is not the norm. And it wasn't a great marriage. I wouldn't say they were the Bickersons, but it lasts. And for you, yeah. So how do you detach? For Arnie, my stepbrother was Arnie Gorm, and his dad, the left behind spouse was Arnie. I don't know. He was just really nice. How do you detach? You recognize that you were there for your son. Okay. Hold on, I'm on a different one. You recognize that you're there for your son. You look at this, what is the relationship that he has like? And I know, trust me, I know, that the relationship that you often, and many of us want for them, the last relationship on earth we want them to have, I will often say, if we split up, you can be with anybody but that one. There's one woman in the world I don't want you to be with. It is the one you left me for. Anybody else, fine, whatever, but not her. That's the one. I don't know how you feel about her. Is she a homewrecker? And by homewrecker, I don't mean simply, did he have an affair with her and that move out, or did she really prey on you, really try to steal? Or was she the one that was the wrong place at the wrong time and fell in love with the wrong guy? And by that, I mean, in my situation, she tried to steal him. She tried to go down and dirty. And we had to have her removed from our property. She tried to fake a pregnancy to get him away from me. Things that were against me. We've had others where that alienators have sent things to the left behind spouse and tried to trick them and things like that. Did she do things like that? Or was somebody who got caught up in the wrong thing? And did they come through this? How have they both grown together? What is she like? My dad felt bad. And I'm biased. He's my dad, okay? He told her to go back to her husband, and she didn't. But I'm biased. I like to brag about that, but I'm biased. He should not have been having an affair with her. Absolutely not. Okay. And my dad wasn't the great husband he tries to think he was either. So what is she to you? Is she one like, I never see her, I don't ever want to talk to her? Or do you all get along, even if it's just pretending? I mean, is she polite? I want you to take the pain out of it. And what can you do to do that? And what kind of therapy have you had to help you do that? And beyond that, hypnotherapy and trauma therapy. To take away, what can we do? And you can say, I don't want to take that away from her. I want to have that because she doesn't deserve that. But does your son, by he, I mean your son, does the relationships that you have to have, and do you deserve that for your sanity and your detachment? To continue, does your healing deserve that? Do we just deserve that to move forward? Do the people that you have become, rather than the people that you were in 1996 and in 2004, deserve that now? Does the woman you are now and the woman she is now and the man he is now, the three of you, deserve those things? Deserve your detachment and forgiveness. And not only forgiveness, but since you have to be in a relationship with him and maybe see her, does it deserve more? I don't know. I don't. I mean, maybe she's still a bitch. And then, keep her out of it. But maybe she's not. And I don't know what to say then. I know that I think, what's her name? Debbie, was it Debbie Boone? No, not Debbie Boone, Debbie, the other one, finally forgave Elizabeth Taylor because they had been friends. Said, why are we doing this over a man? And then Elizabeth Taylor stole me in. But hey, let's just, can't we just, put that behind us? Because our friendship is more important than Eddie Fisher. So what can we do to move forward so that we can detach? And, some of it is going to be therapy. Because you're right. For your son, you need to have a relationship with him, and he's friendly. You do have a relationship with him, and he's friendly. And that's a good thing. And yet it's hard because it's painful and the memories are there. And you're like, if we get along, why can't we be together? Or why couldn't we have been together, right? Because I have a question, is if you had been able to detach, let's say 15 years ago, would you have been able to go into a new relationship? Are you still single? And is part of it because of the pain that you still hold? If you had been able to let go more, forget the standing part. You stood, and once you were no longer doing that, or at least it was, moved on because you stood for a long time, but you realized it's just not going to happen. But there was still this holding on. You come to the realization it's not going to happen, but there's still a holding on and not detached. Is that why? If you haven't moved on to a new relationship, is that why? Or if you've struggled in relationships, is that why? And so some of that is therapy. And like I said, the other things is hypnotherapy and maybe trauma therapy. I don't know about the trauma therapy in it. I love hypnotherapy. For me, those are really helpful ones. Neurolinguistic programming, maybe also some, and neurolinguistic NLP. So think of that, or hypnotherapy with NLP. Sometimes they combine those two things. So think about what kind of therapies could be helpful for you. Okay, that's what I would try and suggest. And see what you can do for that. Okay. So I'm going to look at the comment that is here. So my MLC wife is on a wellness retreat. Are these sort of things good for MLCers? It depends. It depends on, first thing, how there could be a wellness retreat that is very much for looking in at interiority and helping with insight. Or it could be, hey, your happiness and do what you want to do. Or an MLCer could twist anything toward the interpretation they want it to be. And we also have to look at it as sometimes we look at things that our spouse is doing that are positive, but we're afraid of it. And we're so afraid of the growth that we see in others that we are afraid that some things that are really growth, we have midlife crisis, and we have, which is part of a midlife transition. Midlife transition is a positive thing, no matter what. And divorces happen during midlife transition that aren't crises. And divorces happen, of course, during a midlife crisis. Midlife crisis is a midlife transition of crisis proportions. And not all transitions are going to be crises, thank goodness. Okay, but I'm sure that we also have midlife transitions where there is or isn't a divorce. But even where there is, or there isn't, your spouse goes off on a retreat or something, or makes changes, and the partner is scared because we are afraid of the change and moving. We're afraid of the moving apart, even when it's not moving apart, but just the change that they are moving apart. We're afraid. And so a wellness retreat, what is the wellness retreat involved? It could be good for an MLCer, but it depends on what she's looking for. Is she looking for a quick fix? It depends on what she's been doing with her MLC. And what stage of her MLC is she in? Is there a guru? And by guru, I'm using that in a negative term. She's looking for somebody that's just going to tell her everything, and some snake oil person running this? Or is that a positive idea of somebody who is going to have great insight, and it's going to be a retreat where they do positive things and get positive feedback? I'm thinking of going to a nunnery or a Buddhist monastery where you have some quiet time and really get authentic feedback. Or you go to somebody who just tells you what you want to hear, and that you just need to do everything for yourself, and it's really self-involved and navel-gazing. It depends. What do you think? What has she been doing so far, and how far into it is she? So you'll probably have to wait and see. Okay? So that puts us at time. There are a couple of topics that I would like to go over next time. I have one reserved that I didn't get to today. So I do need more questions, but I always need more questions. So please, please, please send more questions, because we need questions for every week as well. Okay? And I saw some good questions that were out there on the Facebook page. So ask them on the Facebook page, but when you see them on the Facebook page, say, hey, this looks like a good question to push on over. Like the question that was asked just a little while ago about, I think it was about vanishers, but I think it was also might have been a newbie. It was either a newbie question or a vanisher or a newbie vanisher, but it was a good one. And it might have been similar to the one I addressed earlier about vanishing, but there was that. Okay, and then there was a couple other topics there was the standard detachment topic, and everybody's fears on detachment to discuss. Okay, and a few others. Okay, because we've got some things blowing up on the Facebook page as well. So just go out there and please give everybody some support and some big hugs, because I think people need it. Okay, y'all need something that is to let everyone know that you care and that everybody is worthy. You can do it. Okay, so Stand Up and Thrive is open. If you are ready for that, please join us. And we are, in fact, we meet today in 2 hours for our 1 hour meeting. And so if anybody wants to be there, I will be there and see you there. We close on Thursday, and I will see everybody at the next Q&A live on Thursday. Okay?